15 of the Republican state governors currently opted out of a food assistance program that is going to leave 8 million needy children hungry. That is what the Republican Party is doing right now.
November's high-stakes election is rapidly approaching, and the stark contrast between Democratic Party values and Republican Party values is on full display, even beyond the premier title fight, the probable rematch between President Biden and Donald Trump. For example, 15 Republican governors have opted out, have refused the president's federal food assistance program for the summer, which would help struggling families and 8 million needy kids. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert buttons before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we have several clips to look at. This is a sad story because it's just another example of Republican cruelty, and it's probably not going to get nearly as much attention as it deserves because it doesn't have to do with Joe Biden and Donald Trump directly, or Hunter Biden or Marjorie Taylor Greene. These are the actions of 15 Republican governors whose names you likely don't know, but it will affect at least 8 million needy kids. And it's hard to offer a charitable position for the Republican Party here because it's an inherently uncharitable position to take. I'll let Joy Behar from The View take it from here.
15 of the Republican state governors currently opted out of a food assistance program that is going to leave 8 million needy children hungry. That is what the Republican Party is doing right now. Forget about the border for a second and concentrate for a minute on these anti-abortion people, anti-choice people who don't seem to care that 8 million children will be hungry.
No, they don't seem to care because, once again, the Republican Party is not the pro-life party. The only way the Republican Party is the pro-life party is if you believe that life ends at birth, because once the fetus leaves the birth canal and becomes a baby, Republicans don't care about their remaining, 10 to 90 years on this planet, whatever the lifespan is. As Democratic Governor Gavin Newsom of California says, calling out a fellow governor, Republican Governor Tate Reeves of Mississippi, he says the newly elected governor of Mississippi's values on full display. Mississippi quits child food program amid Republican welfare state attack because, of course, it's about the welfare state. Why aren't these kids pulling themselves up by their bootstraps or, their little toddler sandal straps? I don't know. I wrote about this on Luke Beasley's website, lukebeasleyshow.com/news. So played the clip of Joy Behar, but the program is called the Summer Electronic Benefit Transfer, or Summer EBT, and it will provide $120 to families per eligible child. The funds can be used to purchase food at grocery stores, farmers markets, or approved retailers. Not exactly like, whatever Republicans seem to think. It's going to go to pornography and all that other stuff that them hippie liberals love to use. No, it's for food for families who need it. The U.S. Department of Agriculture announced that 35 states, all 5 U.S. territories, and 4 tribal nations have signed up for the summer EBT, which will provide $2.5 billion in federal funds for approximately 21 million eligible children. In contrast, 15 states, all led by Republican governors, opted out of the program, preventing 8 million eligible children from receiving its benefits. These states include Alabama, Alaska, Florida, of course, Ron DeSantis is governor there, of course, Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Louisiana, Mississippi, Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Texas, Vermont, and Wyoming. Absolutely insane. I should point out here as well that food insecurity rose noticeably in 2022 after 50 Senate Republicans and Joe Manchin, the one Democrat, allowed President Biden's enhanced child tax credit to sunset, which was part of the American Rescue Plan. And congressional Republicans have also targeted the Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children, also known as WIC, another program intended to combat food insecurity for families and children, for budget cuts. Okay? So again, that part with WIC will come back in later. But yeah, it's super gross. AOC was actually kind of in a roundabout way referenced the GOP's attack on children in a hearing today about the southern border, because it's not just that they're opting out of programs like summer EBT. It's a multifaceted attack, a multi-pronged attack against women and children in this country.
Now, what we have here is that there are even some lawmakers in states like Wisconsin, Ohio, and Iowa that are proposing the loosening of child labor laws in their state because they have so many jobs that are left unfulfilled.
So not only are they denying food assistance to 8 million needy children and their families who need it, right? They're also looking at loosening, child labor laws to put these kids back to work. I love Parks and Rec as much as the next person. It's one of my favorite shows. But when Ron Swanson, a fictional character, said child labor laws are ruining this country, that was a joke, not meant to be an aspiration for Republicans. But unfortunately, I think the Republicans who watched Ron Swanson thought that, his libertarian satire, which is what the character was actually something to emulate. Utterly unhinged. Then you have members of the Republican conference in the House of Representatives. This woman here, Virginia Fox, with 2 X's. She's been a subject of previous videos because she's as deranged as it gets. She also, will virtue signal about the importance of helping women and children. But as a Democratic congressman, Nagoose points out, her words ring a bit hollow.
Community child care facilities. There might be information on food pantries, for example, if a student needed that kind of help. There might be information on pediatricians who are in the area.
Let me follow up on the food.
Anybody can think if you have a baby, what kind of resources do you need?
Sure. Well, so with respect to the food pantry, it's a good example. I went online. The American Pregnancy Association has a list of financial resources that are available to pregnant mothers to better inform them about the resources that might be available. The first item on their list is WIC, Women, Infants, and Children Supplemental Fund Program, right? You're familiar with WIC?
Yes.
Of course, right? The Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children. It's the #1 resource on this website that I went on. And my understanding is that House Republicans, 190 of them in this Congress, voted to rescind $500 million in WIC funding. You recall that vote back in September?
Not in particular the numbers or anything about the vote.
Well, I can represent to you that in September of last year, 190 House Republicans voted to rescind $500 million in WIC funding, and that included you as well.
Awkward, right? Because, of course, Republicans, again, don't care about families, women, or kids whatsoever. All they care about is controlling people against their will, forcing them, of course, to carry pregnancies to term against their will. Again, as soon as that fetus leaves the womb, feeding them or taking care of the helping provide for the families and the parents, all of that is irrelevant. I'll also remind you that, and Luke tweeted this out several months ago, that Virginia Fox is the one who, during a government shutdown or a looming government shutdown, wanted to investigate President Biden's dog. That's where her priorities are. So listen, this is what the Republican Party is. This is what the Republican Party has become. It's nothing new, really. They're just being more cartoonishly super villainous about it, right? 15 states out of 50 opted out of a federal food assistance program for the summer to help needy families and 8 million kids. There's no way to spin this in a way that makes it look good for the Republicans, and certainly not in a way which morally justifies it. If you want to appeal to fiscal responsibility, if you want to say, listen, I'd love to feed the kids, but what about our debt? Our debt can handle it. And if you are really interested in fiscal responsibility, then perhaps you wouldn't have supported $2 trillion in tax cuts for the super rich, which happened under Donald Trump, which were not deficit neutral, which were not paid for. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump contributed more to the national debt in a single 4-year term than any president in recent history, if not all of history. $8 trillion, right? So again, kind of like when there are claims to being pro-life, the Republican Party is not fiscally responsible either. So then the question becomes, okay, well, what are you going to swipe the nation's credit card on? For Republicans, it's tax cuts for the rich and a gazillion new aircraft carriers, rather than feeding millions of kids who need food. It's completely gross. And I want everybody to keep this in mind as the election approaches. Because again, it's not just down to a contest between Trump and Biden. Even if President Biden wins election or the Democratic candidate wins the election, and hopefully they will, there are also down ballot races and gubernatorial races as well. We have to fill every damn political vacancy with a Democrat or whoever the most progressive candidate is and keep these Republican ghouls out of power because they can't be trusted with it. Let me know what you think in the comments.